know, and especially now that we have day 2 regionals, so you know this will be fun.
That's very nice.
yeah.
Very nice change.
Yeah, as always, Paradox Pokemon are legal for this because we are in Series 2, so
Yes.
you will have Brandon on your left side with, oh my gosh, they're actually audio locking in.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We'll go through their teams really quickly. You've got Fluttermane, Palafin, Arcanine, Amoonguss, Hydreigon, and Gothitelle for Brandon, and for Sean, you've got Annihilate, Sylveon, Sableye, Amoonguss, Scizor, and Roaring Moon.
And once again, we are seeing that potential Perish Trap here from Brandon. You have Gothitelle, you have Fluttermane. That's very common now, especially after. Oh, but we're gonna see Sableye and Scizor here from Sean, and they're Gothitelle, but with Hydreigon on Brandon's side.
Yeah, Perish Trap obviously super popular since it did just win a regional, but I think some player named Wolf clicked. Yeah, I guess he plays Pokemon or something, guys.
Yeah.
Kind of exciting, huh? But honestly, Gothitelle just like super kind of like a cool Pokemon, right? Like, it's really nice that it got a lot of utility moves this time.
Yes,
like being able to trap in your Pokemon. Obviously, not going to work with like the Sableye since it is, or since
It is
my bad.
Ghost type. Yep.
No, Sableye is a what?
Yeah,
Dark Type. So yeah, but Scizor also super popular like as a Pokemon lately too. Just like kind of also nice to see it like rise up to the top lately as well.
One thing we got to, I think if you're Sean, you definitely want to either Terra or swap that Scizor because you know that Hydreigon possibly has Heat Wave.
How you gonna switch out your Scizor when you
can't
Shadow Tag?
However, you do have Protect, and it does have the Terra though, so that's the option, and it does have Return, so we might see that come out. Gothitelle gonna go for the Fake Out on Scizor. It does Protect, so that's not gonna happen. After that, we're going to go ahead and see that Focused Energy from Hydreigon. Go for the crits here.
Yeah,
that was it was common more, I think, in Series 1, but I'm starting to see it a lot more. And we're going to see Foul Play from Sableye connected with the Gothitelle to just around 50%, just more like 40.
So actually really interesting. I really love that Brandon was able to go for the focus energy there, right? You were understanding, hey, either Scizor's gonna get faked out, the Sableye can't really do much. It's a perfect time for me to set up this Hydreigon, kind of like just showing like why Gothitelle next to something is just really good because it limits your opponent's options a lot, right? The foul play into the Gothitelle, no matter which one you're foul playing, right, you're only really hitting for just like their attack stat, not their special attack stat. But the more you can attack down into the Gothitelle, activate that berry, the less chances that Gothitelle has of staying.
And we're gonna see Gothitelle swap on out here now, switching in favor of Arcanine. So foul play now potentially going onto the Arcanine, gonna do a little more. And we will see Intimidate though on both Pokemon, and that is gonna definitely hurt that Scizor. Now though, both Pokemon can switch out because that Shadow Tag is gone. We do see that Terra coming out. This is from Brandon's side, tearing that Hydreigon into fire. Very scary Hydreigon. I mean, especially because we know, like you said, it has Heat Waves. So, you know, you get that Terra critical hit boosted Heat Waves. Sableye gonna go for Encore, not gonna happen because it switched. The Gothitelle switched out to Arcanine, and a Heat Wave. There it is. So bye bye Scizor. As long as it does connect with both Pokemon, so Scizor's down in Sableye to 80% thanks to that critical hit.
Yikes.
Or down 80%.
You know how you get rid of a bug? You just set it on fire. Unfortunately. Yeah. So actually, like Brandon, you know, kind of really pivoting nicely here. You kind of put the person who's playing against a Gothitelle like sort of on the back foot because they really have to focus down on it because switching is such a pivotal sort of mechanic in Pokemon, right? It's not something that you usually think about when you're playing the mainline game. So when you're playing competitively, it is definitely something that's on your mind. And so being able to trap your opponents there, set up your Hydreigon, and just kind of be like, hey, even if you switch out the Scizor, it's going to go down no matter what, right? And I think, Sean, if you're okay letting the Scizor go down like that, then that's fine because one, it already got hit by the Intimidate. Two, you wouldn't probably be able to get like that Protect on that turn. You do have access to Bullet Punch though, so you mean maybe you would have been able to just at least get a little bit of like
damage.
with a priority. But honestly,
it would have been 2 fire types. It wouldn't have mattered.
But honestly, you know, at this point, like it's okay to at least just let it go down because now you have that Roaring Moon on the field, so maybe you're allowing yourself a little bit more leeway in terms of like fixing your positioning. And it sucks that you have to like sacrifice a Pokemon for it, but
and we're gonna see Roaring Moon switch out. Loses that booster energy as well, which it just brought out, so that's gone. Goes into Sylveon. An interesting choice there, especially because Sylveon's stab move does not hit fire types very well. We see Encore on Brandon's Hydreigon, which I believe is going to Encore it on the Heat Wave, which is interesting. That's kind of smart, I guess, because now the Roaring Moon can resist, but Sylveon does take solid damage there, around 33% from that, so 2 more hits and it's going out. And it was a wise call here because we are going to see Will-O-Wisp connect with the Sylveon. Going to chip it down, but not going to affect it in terms of attack stat things because it's Sylveon. So I think what Sean was going for was if you lock onto the Heat Wave, you can, at least in that case, avoid a potential Draco Meteor, which was probably going to connect with the Roaring Moon. Even there, I don't know what Sean's got down to his last two. It's really tough because I don't think he's got anything on his team that can really hit fire.
No, and like here's the rough part. So I do appreciate like the switch because like once you expect that Will-O-Wisp, right? So obviously Sylveon won't matter much for it because it is a drop in your attack stat, not your special attack stat. But like you said, the Roaring Moon already consumed its booster energy, so you're gonna kind of miss that. And like Brandon still has his full team, so this Roaring Moon and the Sylveon actually have to put a lot of extra work for this, and it's kind of just a difficult ask for it, especially because even if Sylveon can pick up some knockouts with the Pixelate Throat Spray combination, you're still looking at significant, like, you know, just chip damage a little as like the turns go by from that burn.
And we're going to see that Gothitelle switching on Brandon's side and a Terra flying from Sean on the Roaring Moon, so that's going to boost his acrobatics up a considerable amount, especially now that it lost the booster energy. And there is that acrobatics. Terra flying stab now, and it does do quite solid on Hydreigon. Actually gets it down to 65 health. That's around 33% left, but the Heat Wave going to connect now neutrally on the Roaring Moon. That switch into Gothitelle is kind of nice because you do have Fake Out, and Sylveon going to yawn, so Gothitelle really only has one turn here, but still, you get Fake Out. And what's interesting, Roaring Moon does not have Protect, so if that, you can Fake Out the Roaring Moon with almost no repercussions here, and then pick up the knockout on Sylveon with a Heat Wave. I think that Brandon kind of won here. I don't know. Okay.
No, I think still, no matter what, like Sean's still having to do most of the heavy work, right?
Yeah,
like, Brandon
I mean,
is still in a very commanding position. So the Sylveon going for the yawn here is fine. You can just switch out the Gothitelle if you really need to. The problem with this is that Roaring Moon is faster than Hydreigon, so you can pick up the knockout there. The Gothitelle is going to go to sleep, but that Sylveon's still on a timer, right? I think if you were able to at least get some more damage in there, you might have been in an okay spot.
I think
the Roaring Moon can get faked out this turn, I think, because Gothitelle just is switching here. So really, it's sort of like it's Brandon's game to lose if like he really like makes interesting choices.
And
but
it could come down to Heat Wave misses. I mean, that's something. But I don't
even then, like, you just get rid of the Sylveon and all of a sudden it's just roaring in there. I mean,
Arcanine switching in, here's the Intimidate cycling, which is very smart considering Roaring Moon's like your main attacker, and it still should knock out Hydreigon, but the burn, there's a breaking swipe, which Hydreigon actually lives, and even now I'm again cycling out with the attack drops. Arcanine gets a taste of its own medicine, but the Heat Wave is not going to be able, it's not affected by breaking swipe and special attack, and Roaring Moon now down to just a fraction of its HP. I think it's at this point with Brandon, you just wait until your Gothitelle comes back out and you fake out that Roaring Moon and it's game over.
It doesn't matter, you don't even have to like.
Oh, actually, doesn't Arcanine have extreme speed? Yeah, Arcanine, so it's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
I mean, part of it is just if you're Sean, how do you navigate fighting against the Gothitelle combination, right? And then I think when you're looking at it too, if you're looking at Sean's Sableye, so which we all technically have access to, right? That it does have like the light screen reflect play, which normally you'll see a lot of like setups there because you do the priority with a Prankster. So I'm actually kind of surprised that Sean didn't go for that setup, especially because it offers such good defensive capabilities. Or like your Scizor is not gonna live, right? But your other Pokemon at least have that better chance of resisting with everything going on there.
I think the Scizor was brought out probably to handle a Flutter Mane, because I think when you see Flutter Mane and Gothitelle on screen, you're going to be like, how do I counter Perish Trap? But in this case, I think instead, there's a bunch of options. You have the Moongus as well.
Your problem still persists, right? Because you still have the Hydreigon to deal with, and then when you're looking at the Arcanine also has Flare Blitz as well. So really, between the Amoonguss and the Scizor, right, you're looking at Pokemon that are super weak to fire. And the matter for Sean now is, where do you preserve your Terra typing? Like, sure, you saved your Roaring Moon from getting hit by a Lewis, but then the booster energy no longer benefits you, right? And so that's like sort of like the cost that you have to kind of consider when you're doing this. I think the burden is on Sean to try to figure out how to counter that, because there's too many good combinations on Brandon's side for him to try to have to do it.
Yeah, just like looking at this team, just Terra, Fire, Hydreigon, there's not much on Sean's team that is able to hit that. I mean, your best bet, I would... I don't know. Once that gets set up, it's tough because there's nothing really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is a good...
that's what I would have done too.
This is a good adjustment for Sean. I think being aggressive is in here, but Brandon was like, okay, well, we're gonna slow things down maybe just a little bit. I really love seeing Palafin. I think it's really fun because Palafin is definitely one of those Pokemon that people were sort of like, nah, you know, a lot of people weren't really like we're kind of on the fence about it, but I think it's just been showing that like don't write it off because it quite literally is a 0 to hero, right? It's just definitely one of those stories for it. Roaring Moon Annihilate, though, fantastic sort of lead, I think, from Sean, or at least a good adjustment in terms of what happened in game 1, right? You're a lot more aggressive this time. You're making sure that you're not having to worry about like either getting trapped, because if you are, then it's fine because things will take damage. But Paladin switching out, which means next time we see it, it's gonna be that beefy boy. Yep.
And we're gonna see Fluttermane come on in now, going to be the second fastest Pokemon on the field, just after Roaring Moon. And a Terra coming out. I believe this is the Roaring Moon here with that Terra flying. Definitely going to go for that KO on the Amoonguss. It should be able to pick up a knockout unless it is max defense, or if this happens and it Terras. Yeah, so we do the Terras coming, but I think that case you still get a sport. I mean, unless you double up on this Amoonguss and go for like, but even then, you're probably going to go for a Rage Fist. Unless they predicted the Terra Dark, we do have access to team sheets, so maybe a combination Acrobatics Drain Punch onto that Amoonguss slot, maybe able to do it. Acrobatics gets it down to 50%, and the bulk up from Annihilate means that Amoonguss gets a free Spore here.
I think this is like so fascinating, right? Like you're kind of seeing here with Brandon, like he's very much in command of this game right now. Like sure, you know, you can bring out the Fluttermane for free. The Amoonguss took a lot of damage, and you did show your Terra typing. However, your Paladin is in the back now. It's in like that hero mode.
Yeah.
Sean's Annihilate is asleep now. It's gonna have to take that necessary sleep for next turn. But you're still in a really fantastic position here, because even if the Roaring Moon hits your Amoonguss for the acrobatics damage, you have the Fluttermane on board. You have access in the back for a little bit more offensive pressure. And I think, you know, Sean was expecting another lead, sort of like game 1, where it's like, okay, like he's gonna lead Gothitelle, and I think Brandon just was like a step ahead in that aspect, because now, you know, one of your attackers is asleep, like one of your heavy attackers is asleep. The other one sure is Terra typing and has the extra damage from the acrobatics and the booster energy consumption, but it's still kind of in a precarious position where maybe you don't have to worry about like those like fairy type moves, but you still have to be sort of careful that it's in a spot where it can get spored.
And we're gonna see that Roaring Moon switch out going into Sylveon. Definitely gonna try and prevent any attack from that Fluttermane. Amoonguss now switching out and going to activate that Regenerator. Going into Arcanine now, which is it does activate the Annihilate's Defiant, but it is asleep for a turn, and something tells me here that this Fluttermane's gonna go for that knockout and get it pretty easily unless this Annihilate switches out here. And the Shadow Ball going onto the Annihilate, which is going to pretty much knock that thing out. Or it will knock it out on the next turn, but there's that Citrus Berry. Gonna recover. I think that's not... that may not be enough. It's going to be a close one. But regardless, you do have Arcanine, which can aid in that, because it does potentially knock out. I think here Brandon's still in a really good spot because that Annihilate's asleep, but the potential of it waking up is really scary. Yeah,
you can't even extreme shade it too. That's the funny part, right? But I think if you like double down into the Annihilate, you sort of take care of one problem, but then Sylveon is free to just sort of like do what it does best, which is scream and like knock things out, right?
Pretty much. I think Sylveon doesn't really pose too much of a threat because Arcanine will resist the Hyper Voice, and Annihilate wakes up and goes for a Protect.
That's if you are Brandon, you're like, that's kind of rough. But if you're Sean, you're like, that's perfect, right? Because it kind of helps you like in the long run. You keep yourself from taking damage from that Moonblast now from Fluttermane,
and that's actually probably enough to knock out the Annihilate once the turn or the Protect is done. And a Flare Blitz onto Sylveon knocks it down to half health. That's kind of what you need for Brandon.
Sylveon is gonna scream here. Yep.
Hyper Voice gonna do not too much on either one. Fluttermane goes down to about a third, and then Arcanine also goes down about a third. They both have around 60 to 66% of health left, and Throat Spray activates.
So I think you know you're less worried about the damage from there as opposed to the hey, at least I finally have the boost from that Throat Spray because now Sylveon has a little bit more pressure. Sure, your health is down by half, but the Annihilate is awake now, and so you do have to worry about that as a Pokemon on the field now as well. Really, for your Arcanine, like you could probably go for another one there, but okay.
Swapping out now, going into the Amoonguss slot.
So the Shadow Ball did activate the Rage Fist.
Yes.
Once, so there is that.
Moonblast going to connect with the Amoonguss, does not very much, but this is what was interesting. It was that was a critical hit on the Amoonguss.
Amoonguss was like nom 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 nom.
Flare Blitz onto that Amoonguss, gets rid of it, and now Sean's down to
fine.
I think you kind of use Amoonguss in this case, bringing it in the back. You use it as kind of like a target.
Yeah, like you kind of knew that was happening. You would rather keep the Annihilate there and like not have that go down. But see,
Arcanine, I think is going to be able. get KO'd here by this Hyper Voice? Yeah, it does. And Fluttermane goes to 6
I'm sorry.
HP.
We're going to talk about how this Arcanine is actually safety goggles and not Citrus Berry, because in case, I don't know if some of you noticed, there was no berry procking on that Arcanine, so it was safety goggles, which is actually really fantastic here for Sean, right?
Yep.
That Fluttermane is basically almost out. Like, it is faster, but I don't think that Sylveon actually has access to. Oh, it has quick attack. So
But it doesn't matter here because regardless of what happens, Brandon has a way to divert that. You can go for a Rage Powder on the Amoonguss, or you could go for the, and we're going to see Amoonguss, but if you brought in Palafin, you could have Jet Punch, now would have bounced back. Roaring Moon still lost its booster energy, but no longer has that, like it's no longer has the booster energy, so Fluttermane is going to be able to outspeed it. I think here
you can actually just double down to the Amoonguss because you don't want to put yourself in a spot again where you're spored, right?
I definitely would.
That's really something you have to worry about. Fluttermane won't be doing much damage either way to
no,
here.
I think
even with Perish Trap, like with Perish Song, you can't really trap it. You're missing the other half of the Perish.
Yeah, you can't perish it. I think here, yeah, because it's really going to come down to how much Fluttermane does. I think if you can get rid of that Sylveon, it would really benefit you, but I don't think Fluttermane has that power. I think it's gonna like just miss out on it, and we're gonna see Fluttermane protect here, which is I think smart because you want to. I think they'll kind of want to get rid of the Amoonguss because or Sylveon protects.
Interesting. So Sylveon also protecting this turn.
I think let's see what happens with this Roaring Moon here. Goes for the acrobatics onto the Amoonguss. I think that did over 50% last time, but it did get Regenerator, so it's not going to be enough. And Amoonguss gets that Spore onto the Roaring Moon, and now Brandon has real good control of this match here. That Roaring Moon stays asleep for at least a turn. Now can go for the attack on Sylveon.
Actually, I think Sean's still in a pretty okay position here because you can Hyper Voice here still, and then even with the Palafin like possibly switching in here, you're still gonna have to take the damage from the Hyper Voice, right? Sean's not quite out of it because he's much better spot than he was in one. So sure, the Roaring Moon is asleep. You'll take your necessary sleep for this turn, and if you get another lucky like one turn wake up, then you're in a great spot.
Then that's pretty much what's
so here you have to just be careful that you're at least attacking, doing some decent damage into that Palafin here. The Hyper Voice here would be actually fantastic because when you knock out the Fluttermane does a
lot on Palafin.
That is a +2 Hyper Voice with Pixelate.
That does so much. Now I think here it really is gonna come down to these knockouts. I think it's gonna come down to the sleep turns. Pretty sure that the Sylveon's gonna go down to anything.
You actually have to knock out the Sylveon.
Yeah, you have to get rid of Sylveon because if not, it's dead. It's over.
The Annihilate in the back is actually super fantastic here for Sean as well.
Jet Punch going onto the Sylveon gets rid of it. And this is now going to come down to the sleep turns, whether or not Roaring Moon stays asleep or not. When it wakes up, it does stay asleep. And there is a Pollen Puffin coming, it looks like. And there it goes onto that Palafin. Gonna raise Palafin's HP. I think it gets it really close.
What's really interesting about this is that is a crazy game on Brandon's side, and I kind of appreciate that because if Sean's Roaring Moon woke up and was able to pick up the knockout on that Palafin, that was it. I would have put the Amoonguss in a lot of trouble. I think it's still a pretty decently close game because Sean still does have a pretty heavy attack here, right? They're both down to their last Pokemon. The Roaring Moon could wake up this turn, but Annihilate, more importantly, is able to either get a knockout on the Amoonguss or do some significant damage to the Palafin. I think here, if you knock out the Amoonguss, you're in a much better spot because Jet Punch can't knock out both of them, right? No. You really have to make a choice. Although, you either have to risk it with the Roaring Moon. Ooh.
There's that Protect from Amoonguss, and I think here, there's the wake up. Yeah, I think
it has to go
Breaking Swipe, which is going to connect with both Amoonguss and the Palafin. That may have been the deciding factor. It's going to come down because we did see Palafin go for a Wave Crash onto the Annihilate.
The attack drop is so nice, though.
Wave Crash going on to the Annihilate, and the attack drop's going to make it live barely. And I think that the Drain Punch goes onto the Palafin, and it does survive. Okay, now you're in an interesting position. I think here... yeah, that's amazing for Sean. I think there's not much that Sean could. I mean, yeah, you gotta. It doesn't really matter. You're Roaring Moon.
You're still in the spot where like Annihilate. Like if you protect it, you're the Annihilate, right? I think you're still in like a because you have to make the choice. Where you have to call the Protect is happening on one of them. If you don't decide the right one, you're in trouble. If you knock out the Palafin, you're still in a okay spot with the Amoonguss.
Well, I
knock out like.
I think Roaring Moon's gonna just go for a Breaking Swipe. We're gonna see Rage Powder. I think if you just Breaking Swipe though, it's pretty much over. I mean, that did do enough, I think, to knock out the Palafin, and we know it outspeeds. Jet Punch goes onto the Annihilate, which will KO. No surprise there. But yeah, like I said, Breaking Swipe is gonna. That's it, I think. And the attack drop is make sure that that Jet Punch isn't going to do a ton. Yeah, now it's Roaring Moon versus Amoonguss, and in that case, you could just click Acrobatics because we saw it do more than 50%, and it's game over. Sean's going to take this one, I think.
Well, I would hope so because I don't think Amoonguss is going to be able to do
Yeah,
much,
Amoonguss can't really even touch it. It's only got Volleyball.
So I will say though, that was like actually kind of a beautiful adjustment from Shawning in that game too. Like that lead is kind of what we were hoping for, which was a lot more aggressive than it was in that game one, right? I think Brandon was kind of in a rough spot because the Fluttermane is nice and everything like that. I know most people are like seeing it paired with Gothitelle. The issue here for him wasn't that like part of it was like the sport turns were just kind of unlucky for him without Annihilate waking up turn 2 getting the protect off. I think also a huge part of it is like leaving the Sylveon alone for a while too, because you can't really ignore the fact that a +2 Sylveon with Pixelate is definitely going to be one of those like, oh okay, or like a +1 Sylveon Pixelate Hyper Voice. It's still a significant amount of damage, right? Like I think people have been leaving Sylveon behind in favor of maybe like Umbreon for its bulkierness or just other Pokemon that could be potential fairy types, but Sylveon does have a reason why it was the most popular evolution when it came out, and it wasn't just because of its design. It's because it's a good Pokemon.
It's a really good Pokemon, and we saw it. I mean, it did a massive amount onto resistant, or with a Hyper Voice onto stuff that resisted it. I mean, like I said, it was +2, and it's able to get that pretty easily in this matchup, I'd say. Not to mention that even with the stuff that there's a lot of resistances, it still has utility because I believe we saw it had Yawn, so that Yawn Protect could also save Sean here with kind of giving Spirit days of his own medicine by putting some of those Pokemon to sleep or forcing them to switch out, especially during Perish Trap.
I think if you're Sean, I think the Scissor here actually, as much as you want to like bring it for Fluttermane, you do have to really be careful of that Hydreigon, right? Brandon obviously taking a little bit more time than Sean to make his choices for this game 3. I think actually the Hydreigon was a really big factor in like one. It's absolutely terrifying, and there's not much that you can do to sort of knock it down.
The only thing,
but actually, he's.
I mean, I can understand why Annihilate and Roaring Moon do threaten it. Roaring Moon specifically can, I think, win a one-on-one on the pit.
He's going with a save for. He didn't.
That's gonna be interesting. Maybe I mean, it could have been played right. I mean,
I think if Sean leads aggressively again, I think there's a way you can definitely punish Brandon like leads here because.
Sylveon Roaring Moon lead.
Still just as aggressive.
It's aggressive, yeah.
It's still definitely Pokemon that like, because one here you're gonna have to switch out like the you're gonna have to
gotta swap, yeah. Or it's gonna, or
you know, you have to switch out the Paladin or something because you want to be able to get the hero mode from it, right? Fluttermane also kind of like an interesting spot.
I think Fluttermane's actually really in a bad spot because I mean, you have potential. It doesn't protect, but like what I'm thinking is if you double up on that Fluttermane with a quick attack and acrobatics, it's dead, or whatever switches in is dead, and then Palafin can't
don't die,
touch
they faint.
They faint. Excuse me. But no, I think in that case Palafin, like, it can't do much. I mean, it's not in its hero form, so with that you kind of put a target on the Fluttermane's back, and it does pose a threat here considering that Roaring Moon is faster with that booster energy.
He's staying in with the Palafin. Love that.
I can't say I blame him on this one. Don't want to swap it in yet. Kind of gets a free hit, I'd say.
Yeah, but Roaring Moon Acrobatics flying Terra
that's dangerous.
It's
so
gross,
dangerous.
Right? Like the amount of power that you have in just that one sentence is just as like bad as anything else. But Throat Top instead, that is fantastic as a move for this.
Moonblast connecting onto Sylveon. I think
still so
that's
much damage.
Close combat from Palafin onto the Roaring Moon. I guess I didn't expect
that
Terra.
did so much, guys. No, I think you should always expect the Terra with the Roaring Moon here, especially because like it's really your best sort of like goal here. Interestingly enough, I feel like Brandon, not to be like weird about it, but like, it feels like sort of dropping the ball there, right? Like you took a lot of damage unnecessarily with that Fluttermane. The Palafin didn't have to stay in there. I think 9 times out of 10 you should expect the Roaring Moon there to Terra, because there's not much else that makes sense for it, right? Because Acrobatics just does so much good damage. Sure, you get the Intimidate now here onto both of these Pokemon, but Sylveon's that +1 thanks to that Throat Spray. It did insane amounts of damage to that Palafin. That Palafin's not really even in a great spot to be able to switch out and come back in for its hero mode. You're really just sort of like letting it go down this turn for
pretty much
no reason.
There's nothing it can really do unless it switches, and even if it does switch, like Roaring Moon, it's going to go ahead and swap in to... If it switches into really anything, Roaring Moon has a way to knock it out.
Here's the thing, right, too. Like, if you really think of the Palafin's not a threat. It's really not a threat unless it switches out. So you can just focus onto the Arcanine if you really need
Roaring Moon switching out here. Now we're going to see Amoonguss come out. Not a bad switch, I think. It's especially really good with Sylveon not at full health, and with that boosted energy, or not boosted energy, but with that throat spray, it's going to be able to hopefully survive this Flare Blitz now. It does, and now because of that, Amoonguss can Rage Powder, and you can just spam some Hyper Voices until you win. And speaking of Hyper Voice, there it is. Not going to connect to the Palpin because it does protect, but that +1 Hyper Voice is still going to do solid on that Arcanine. Gets it under half health. I think this is right now like.
So I guess I can, what I can say is I can appreciate the fact that Sean switched out the Roaring Moon, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to have to worry about the Intimidates and like making sure that you miss out knockouts that you could otherwise pick up. Palafin like dangerously close to getting knocked out here, and I think I saw Brandon switching it out for the Amoonguss. It's still, it's now definitely like the onus is on Brandon here to just kind of make that comeback here, because losing the Flutterman, taking all that damage with that Palafin just is really rough for you in the long run.
And we're going to see that Amoonguss swap on in. Sylveon going for a Protect. I think that's very smart. Don't want it to die yet. We're going to go to that Arcanine next with that extreme speed, but that's not going to connect with that Sylveon. And the Arcanine cannot get put to sleep because it does have safety goggles, so instead we're going to see that Amoonguss go for a Spore onto the other slot, which is Amoonguss. So basically that was like a waste of turn, or not waste of turn, but nothing happened.
No, I wouldn't say that nothing happened, right? The Sylveon is still alive, which is sort of the more important part here, because now Sean doesn't have to switch out another Pokemon. So the Sylveon staying alive is actually super important in this aspect. The Amoonguss is a little bit of sort of just like dead weight on Sean's side, just because one, you can't Rage Powder because it won't matter for either the Amoonguss or the Arcanine. You can't Spore anything because one, it's an Amoonguss, and the Arcanine does have safety goggles. But at least you're forcing Sean to either like to have to sack that Pokemon there, but you're also forcing Brandon to have to attack down into both of these. So you still have that Roaring Moon back. Sylveon Quick Attack is going to connect here. Not going to do much. But I mean, you still get a little bit of damage, right? And now you're going to get that Flare Blitz damage from that Flare Blitz. And it's that recoil damage, it's just a lot.
And we're going to go ahead and see that Arcanine take the recoil damage, and then the Amoonguss's play, the opposing Amoonguss, once again going for Spore, but Safety Goggles is going to make sure that doesn't happen. And that Pollen Puff is exactly what Brandon wanted. That Arcanine now going back to close to full health again for that Roaring Moon, and that's going to be really nice. Also with the Roaring Moon,
you could bring out the Annihilate too, but or like whatever you might have last in the back, right?
Yeah.
I think Sean's still just in a really nice position here.
Yeah.
Sure, you have to worry about if this Willows connects, then Sean might be in a little bit of a tougher spot. But you still have the hero mode Palafin in the back that it's basically almost knocked out. The Amoonguss can probably take it, can like knock it out if it really needs to. You still got a full health Pokemon for Sean in the back. We saw the Sylveon and the Roaring Moon lead. We know the Amoonguss is here, and we still have that last mysterious Pokemon, which probably the Annihilate, just because of how aggressive it could be. I mean, if it's Scissor, then maybe you're in a little bit of trouble, but just the amount of pressure that Flying Terra, Roaring Moon can do with Acrobatics is just it's just ridiculous, especially with how fast it is, right?
I think here, with Brandon, I'm thinking Arcanine's kind of your heavy attacker, or you gotta at least chip that with the Roaring Moon. We're gonna see Amoonguss Protect though. I thought it was gonna go for a Rage Powder. I thought you wanted to do that just so you can make sure you hit that Roaring Moon and get it down. But we're gonna see Acrobatics connect with the Arcanine. It'll probably live, even though it's super powerful. Yep. It knocks Arcanine down to 40.
If you clear spot,
there's that Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, that's why I thought I totally thought that they would go for the Rage Powder there, but it works out. And anyways, at this point,
wait, which Amoonguss did you think was gonna Rage Powder?
Brandon. Just and Pollen Puff going on to Arcanine, not gonna pick up that knockout either. And now Roaring Moon is burned. So I thought, yeah, I was expecting Rage Powder to ensure the burn.
Terrible here because the burn will still just be like, oh, okay, you still do a significant amount of damage into Arcanine. But Amoonguss going for the Pollen Puff here on Brandon's side would actually be really nice, just because then you don't have to worry about the Acrobatics going into there. You probably won't get knocked out by it now too, especially because of the burn.
Yeah.
So you could save the Arcanine if you really wanted to, but
I think right now it's tough. It's a really tough position because there's not much on Brandon's side that.
Brandon just has to be aggressive right now, right? That's the only problem. You really have to, the Rage Powder here is really smart.
You kind of have to.
Because you force the Acrobatics going down into you. Arcanine is going to knock itself out with the Flare Blitz, but if you can at least... Ooh.
Breaking Swipe is going to pick up the knockout on Arcanine and hit
Sean, you're smarter than we are.
Yeah, I was the first
Forgot about that.
That explains it. And that's pretty much... That also explains the Protect. It's over the... And there's a Pollen Puff to raise the HP back up of that Roaring Moon to full. Unless this Palafin... can one shot. I mean, I don't. think we've seen
if this Palafin somehow manages to like KO Sean's entire team, it really is a 0 to hero sort of ordeal. But I don't see that like happening at all unless somehow all of Sean's Pokemon like suddenly decide that they don't know how to see and just miss every single move that they have, right?
I mean, at this point, yeah, you kind of have to go for that Terra on the water and just hope for the best. If you Wave Crash, though, you're dead. So you have to. And what's interesting, too, with Brandon's team, we saw the moves. It's a water move and a fighting move. There's nothing there that can hit a
I mean,
close.
Jet Punch actually probably was gonna be your best. Oh no, he's gonna try to Pollen Puff himself, right? You do have access to that as well, but you still have to be really careful. The Jet Punch Mystic Water type is just as scary as Acrobatics Flying Terra type.
Yeah.
However, you get like the extra stab because of the fact that Palafin is a Water type. If you're able to Pollen Puff that Palafin in there, if it survives, you are in a fantastic spot. Like, because if you are able somehow to knock out anything on Sean's side. Here you could actually go for the Rage Powder with your Onamungus if you're Sean, because this Palafin doesn't have the safety goggles, obviously, right? It will get redirected, which kind of leaves the Roaring Moon free to attack into it. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, like the Rage Powder is like your best bet here because then you don't have to worry about it, right?
And we're gonna see next. It's got that. There's that Jet Punch, Terra Water Jet Punch onto the Amoonguss here. It's going to do actually a lot more than I expected, I have to admit. Rocky Helmet is going to chip its damage to the red. Acrobatics. I'm actually surprised we didn't see a Breaking Swipe, but Acrobatics connects with Palafin, gets rid of it, and now it's just Brandon's Amoonguss versus everything else on Sean's team. I think there's nothing. I mean, yeah, it's pretty much over here. And he can't Terra. It goes down to an Acrobatics on the next turn. That Pollen Puff.
This is one of those games where like double Rage Powder is like next to your Terra typing, would have just been funny. And here's the one part: you never see Sean's last Pokemon.
I was very. You don't
have to see
There's
it,
the forfeit, right? So it's going to Sean here. Well played by Sean. Those adjustments were really well made. Being hyper aggressive at the start, bringing in Amoonguss for support in the back worked out really well. And at that point, once you get to that point where you're able to put that offensive pressure, we saw that Brandon's team didn't really know how to handle it because it was. I mean, when you look at it, it's a really solid. But once that Palafin is like crippled at the start, that's like one of your heavy hitters. So
yeah, I think it was actually just really interesting that he kept the Palafin in that turn.